want to very quickly run through some of the problems that Jake and I have encountered and some of the problems that we think we're going to encounter on draft day and why we need to make it an adjustment to our league rules to account for this. So in this dummy league, you can see that I have all the teams loaded on here. I have all of our team names. So what I'm basically going to do is just run through a quick nomination so you can see how our league rules are supposed to work as they're currently constructed, and then I'm going to talk about all the problems that we foresee and the problems that we've already encountered in these dry runs and what we think the solution should be to those problems. So I'm going to go ahead and right now I currently have the draft paused. This League Manager tab won't appear on your screens during the draft. This is only for the league managers. I've currently got the draft paused. I'm going to go ahead and resume it. I'm currently up to nominate a player, so I nominate a player, Aaron Rodgers. Now Aaron Rodgers is currently designated as a keeper by Jim's team. So if Jim wants to exercise his keeper rights on them, he gets a 33% discount off of the auction value in this auction. So I go ahead and I nominate him. So whatever amount he ends up going for, Jim gets 33% off. And you can see everybody's team's bidding on him because everybody wants Aaron Rodgers because he's an absolute stud. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to swoop in here at the end and try and outbid everybody. Paul really wants him. He bid 69. Paul just keeps outbidding me. It's going up to 76. Well, I'm going to try and put an end to this by going to 81. There it is, sold. Okay, so now after each keeper, I'm going to have to pause the draft and go down into the chat room here and ask Jim, hey Jim, do you want to keep A-Rod? And then Jim will reply, yes, of course I want to keep A-Rod. A-Rod's a stud. Once Jim has declared that this is going to be his keeper, what we would like to do, if ESPN allowed us to do this, would be to simply reassign Aaron Rodgers to the team exercising keeper rights, so reassign it to Jim, and to change the amount of the bid to reflect his 33% discount. So $81, again, the price paid, minus the discount, $54. So what ESPN allows me to do is it does allow me to change the value paid during the draft to $54. However, it does not then allow me to reassign the player to the new team. And as you can see, I spent the $81 on him, $119. If I hit submit on this, my bid amount goes down to 54. My budget increases now to 146 to reflect the amount that I've saved. However, I am not the team exercising keeper rights on Aaron Rodgers, so this doesn't do us any good. So what I have to do instead is I have to completely undo the pick and basically start from scratch, go back to square one, and say undo. It asks me if I'm sure I want to undo the last pick. I say yes. So now we're back at square one. It's my turn to nominate a player. I'm going to go ahead and nominate Aaron Rodgers. However, in the chat room down here, I'm now going to say, okay, do not bid on this player. This is Jim's keeper. So nobody bid on him. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to nominate him. First thing I have to do is I have to resume the draft. I'm going to nominate Aaron Rodgers. Now, I've told everybody, do not bid on him. What's supposed to happen here is Jim is just supposed to bid his $54 and he gets the player. But instead what you're seeing is we have a communication problem. People didn't read what I said down there. They're not paying attention to the chat room, which is what happens 90% of the time in 90% of mock drafts and a lot of real drafts I've been in. So instead everybody's just bidding away, bidding away, bidding away. And again, it's Paul's team that really wants Aaron Rodgers. And now he's been sold for $72. I'm going to go ahead and pause the draft at this point. To one, admonish everybody in the message boards. Do not bid. This is Jim's keeper. If only Jim bids on him, then Jim will be the team that is awarded the player, obviously. If he just bids his $54. But that's dependent on everybody else not bidding. Again, because I can't assign the player to a particular team, I have to go ahead and back out again, undo, say yes. One, we have to wait for Jim to make the decision whether or not he wants to keep Aaron Rodgers at $54. And two, we have to wait for the LMs to pause the draft, to calculate the discount, and inform the team that they can keep that player at the discount. So basically this presents a number of problems. However, we think that we have a solution to this problem, and that is to decide keepers before the draft using ESPN's values or another website's average values of players. If we do this, we decide players before the keepers before the draft rather than trying to decide them based on draft day value. We simply use ESPN's value, for instance. It says it's $64. Each team can then take a couple of days or weeks to decide which keepers they want to keep. You would just go through and calculate all of your keepers at their current rates. So 64 times 33%, that's $21 off. So Jim would be able to keep Aaron Rodgers for $43. And he would make that decision before the draft. All of the keeper players would be removed from the player pool, so we wouldn't have to worry about those 24 players during the draft. We'd only have to worry about the 168 players or so that remain to fill out everybody's rosters. Each keeper is going to require roughly 4 minutes during the draft. So 4 minutes multiplied by 24 keepers, that's 96 minutes. So you're essentially looking at about an hour and a half just to get through our keepers. Then we have 168 other players that we have to get through. That means the draft time is going to far exceed 3 hours, potentially go into 4 hours, and that's not something that anybody wants. However, if we decide keepers before the draft, that's obviously going to shorten the length of the draft and we won't have to worry about it. It also shortens the draft by removing the need to pause and back up the draft for every keeper player, so we're saving even more time. You'll know every player's value and how much it will cost you to keep each player before the draft, so it allows you to make better decisions, and again, you won't have to make these decisions on the fly during the draft. Jake and I sort of toyed around with the idea of having a draft shot, a keeper shot clock, so once the bidding concluded for a player, we were going to give you either like 15 seconds or 30 seconds to make your decision, but then again, that's adding time to the draft, and that's adding a burden on Jake and I because we would have to independently time each of you, say, okay, 30 seconds starts now, count out the 30 seconds or use a stopwatch, whatever, and then at the conclusion of that 30 seconds say, okay, you haven't made a decision yet, so we're going to release the player to the highest bidder at that point. And then finally, it just relieves a huge burden on Jake and I to manage thousands of small details during the draft, in addition to managing our own teams. So I hope you found this video helpful. I know that it's a little bit long, and I apologize for that. I appreciate everybody sitting through this. I'm going to post on the message boards a vote to amend the league rules. It'll be Amendment 12-05. This will be our final amendment of the off-season that everybody needs to vote on, and then we'll be ready to go. Assuming that it passes, we'll be ready to go for the draft. If it fails, and then we have to go through this process, then it fails, and we'll go through this very lengthy draft process.